joining us this morning is a Democratic congressman who says it's embarrassing that two sides can't come together on the budget. He's a former Wall Street banker who is also spearheading the adoption of the Dodd-Frank bill on bank regulation and has made an effort as a young congressman from Connecticut to reach across the aisle to his fellow Republicans. Well, Congressman Jim Himes, nice to have you back here on In the Loop. And when you say it's embarrassing, are you embarrassed as well by members of your own party on the budget?
Well, the whole situation is embarrassing. And look, there's not the kind of ethic we need of compromise in the Congress right now. And it's been a real problem for the economy. You know, we have made progress. You know, we found $2.4 trillion in deficit reduction. But the fact of the matter is, along the way, we had the debt ceiling crisis and a default with S&P. You know, the Congress has dragged this process out in the most messy way possible, and it's really taken a toll on the economy. So yes, it is time, and unfortunately it's not going to happen in the next month or two, but it is time for the parties to come together and to finish this process off.
But Congressman, has it really taken a toll on the economy? I mean, the housing market seems to be rebounding. We've still got companies hiring. The markets are near their record highs. And it seems like they're largely ignoring what is going on in Washington.
Yeah, you know, in particular, I have in mind the downgrade, you know, of a year and a half ago or so. That was obviously something that didn't need to happen. And, of course, I have in mind the sequester. The sequester now is having a negative effect on the economy. It's going to take some time to build. But, look, you're right. The recovery is actually in reasonably good shape. Not where we want it, but reasonably good shape. But it could be a heck of a lot better if, for example, around the Simpson-Bowles Commission, we'd come together to actually do one big deal and put that behind us.
Now, I know you're part of the No Labels program, where it's lawmakers who specifically try to once a month reach across the aisle to their fellow lawmakers and come together on some common ground. As part of that, I mean, what have you found out in thinking for those who are on the opposite sides of you?
Well, yes, I am part of No Labels, and look, we shouldn't try to hide the fact that the two parties today have profound disagreements on economic policy and, you know, where we would take things like investment in our infrastructure, where we, you know, how we would handle Medicare. But the fact of the matter is, one of the most frustrating things in Congress right now is that there is just no venue for Democrats to get to know Republicans and vice versa. And as a consequence, people become stereotypes, you know. And what No Labels does is it just provides a venue where you can get to know people. And you know, as they say, it's hard to say no to a friend. And, you know, while I wouldn't overstate the importance of, you know, having better human relations in the Congress, it can only help.
I can imagine that, Congressman, but, you know, you've still got Republicans who say, including Paul Ryan, as you just heard, that you can't even begin negotiations. These are no starters when Democrats keep talking about increasing spending and $1 trillion worth of tax increases.
Yeah, look, that's negotiating and posturing, what you heard from Paul Ryan. And as I said before, you know, obviously the visions are very different. And the two budgets, look, the Democratic Senate budget and the House Republican budget are absolutely miles, if not light years apart. Nonetheless, look, when the cameras go off and the doors close, most Republicans will tell you that they understand that the final deal involves a little bit more revenues. By the way, John Boehner put more revenues on the table than were brought in the January 1st deal. Yeah. And most Democrats will tell you that they understand that central to this adjustment is a fair and equitable reform of Medicare and Social Security. You just, you know, when the cameras are on, people don't talk that way.
Right, and I imagine when we say revenue, we're probably talking more about tax loopholes and tax breaks, right?
I think that's right. Look,
okay.
I think rates are done. They were done in January, and now we're really talking about the fact that something like $1.3 trillion escapes through loopholes, credits, and deductions in the tax code. So yes, that's what we're talking about.
Congressman, just on another note, as I mentioned, you know, you're working on the Dodd-Frank bill. Of course, it's being looked at by regulators right now in terms of adoption. I'm just wondering, you know, coming off of the J.P. Morgan whale trading hearing that we saw a couple of weeks ago in the Senate, is that going to make it much more difficult to adopt Dodd-Frank or to find ways to pull back on some of those restrictions in that bill?
Well, you know, where we are on Dodd-Frank is it's pretty much fully in the hands of the regulators. The law passed a long time ago, and of course it asked the regulators to write literally hundreds of rules, and that's what they're doing right now. Right. And what they're finding is that some things make all the sense in the world. You know, I mean, just to throw a few things out there, you know, the idea that derivatives should trade on exchanges and clear through clearinghouses, the creation of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau to try to put a stop to some of the uglier mortgage practices, that kind of thing. But there are elements of Dodd-Frank which we're looking back on and saying, geez, you know, this is actually going to be very hard to implement. To give you one example, you know, the Volcker rule, great idea. You know, banks should not be taking proprietary bets using, you know, federally supported funds, FDIC guarantees. Right. No one quarrels with that idea, but it turns out that distinguishing between a proprietary trade and you know, an inventory that you keep to make markets is very, very hard. So, you know, we're involved in a conversation on Capitol Hill right now about is it possible to create a vehicle where you can fix those, you know, whatever it is, 3, 6, 12 things that you'd like to fix, but that doesn't result in the whole law being repealed, or, you know, that allows it to happen.